Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 407 podcast. My name is Mills. I'm here with Justin, and we are here to talk about some Orlando Magic basketball.
Yes, welcome to our subscribers. Welcome to our listeners. This is episode 6. Just a quick shout out to our 153 subscribers on YouTube, 895 followers on Instagram, as well as the 353 of you guys joining us from Twitter. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for liking, subscribing, sharing. We cannot wait to have you guys back on the show.
Yeah, so a somber tune today. We'll see how long we go. We don't really have a clear-cut script for this one. We just kind of wanted to come on and address that, just the tailspin that has happened this season. I mean, this is going to be a stark difference from our last podcast, where we were 3-0 and riding high, even went 4-0, and now just 3-5 in our next 8 games, and it not looking much better in the near future. So we're going to discuss some reasons. Obviously, the big news, huge injury to Markelle Fultz, which is just horrible, and that's something that we're going to want to talk about right away because it couldn't have happened to a better guy. And right when he's getting back to playing like himself, he goes down with the ACL injury. Justin and I were both at that game, so it felt like the air left the stadium or arena. Justin, how did you feel when that happened?
We were getting to that game a little bit later. We were sitting way up in the top, paying $4 for Orlando Magic tickets. Absolutely love that. But yeah, we sat down for 2 minutes, and 2 minutes later, we hear Markelle Fultz screaming from the top of the ceiling. So that was awful to see. Me and Mills have both worn our Markelle Fultz jerseys both games we've gone to. We have seen our team get blown out in a 24-point loss to the 76ers. And then, however, a win against the Cleveland Cavaliers, which the team looked well in, but we lost Markelle Fultz. So we haven't seen the 2 best games so far this season. And yeah, what a blow. We're definitely going to talk about that this episode.
All right, so starting immediately after the 4-0 streak was that 76ers game, and boy, was it rough. I mean, it wasn't going to continue. Our shooting, we were shooting the ball so well in the beginning of the season, and free throws as well. We were over 90%, and you can't ask for that to continue. That just doesn't happen. You're going to have your off shooting nights. So, I mean, it sucked to lose the 76ers in that way. We believe we split with them last year, but it was just one of those games. It was like, okay, well, we lost this one, but we'll just rebound and shoot better the next one. But it kind of led to this string of pretty poor shooting that has since not really recovered. Magic in the high 90s to low 100s in each of their next 8 games. So it's definitely something they're going to have to – go ahead.
Sorry, Mills, I didn't mean to cut you off. One thing I really wanted to point out was looking at this season, our schedule at this point, I thought we would be 6-5, which is what we are right now. I thought that we would have lost to the Heat and won that second game against the Thunder. So 6-5 is not a bad place considering we played the Bucks, Mavericks, and Rockets, 3 very, very strong teams, 2 being out in the West, which is stronger than the East, although the East has definitely picked it up this year. But yeah, the Magic have always struggled out going to the West. So not too upset about losing to the Mavericks and Rockets. However, little upset, just like Clifford said in one of the post-game conferences. It's all about this energy and effort we're seeing from this Magic team. We'll hint on that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right. And that's something that we can't get too far away from the fact that it's still the Magic. They're going to go on runs. They're going to play hard. Vooch is balling out, and it's been really helpful. But it definitely seems as though the team has lost some hope from the beginning of the season. I mean, with the injuries and with the poor shooting and with the East getting better and them kind of staying the same, it's a little concerning to see, but that's something that we can't get too far away from. Is they're still the Magic. They're still going to play well. They are still have a very good chance of making the playoffs, and we can't let this kind of rough stretch just ruin our opinions of the team.
Very, very true. One thing I do want to point out, we are filming this right now on January 14th. The Magic are 6-5, and we are still first in the Southeast standings. Although we are on this 3-game losing streak and have looked not great the last 3 games with a couple of huge losses, Mills is exactly right. This is this Orlando Magic basketball team. Terence Ross can turn it on anytime. Aaron Gordon is this highlight machine. Even though I do want to point out, for some reason this year, it does not seem to be a bunch of highlight plays or big dunks from the Orlando Magic. Very somber kind of basketball, even in the first 4 games winning. We looked good, but not great. So I just wanted to point that out. But I'll go ahead and recap what we've missed since the last podcast. We had a win over the Thunder, followed by that loss. We're going to talk about the 76ers that we were at, a loss to the Thunder, 2 back-to-back wins against the Cavaliers at home, and then the 3-game losing streak we are currently on to the Rockets, Mavericks, and Bucks. Mills, anything that showed out to you, popped out, really surprised you out of this last couple games since we've recorded a podcast?
Yeah, the effort. They've struggled. I mean, the Magic always have stretches where they play bad. But they usually only last a couple games, and then they kind of bounce back and have just a crazy shooting night, or Terence Ross just hits like 7 or 8 threes, or something crazy happens. And they just haven't really done that. And maybe it's on the horizon. Maybe it's tomorrow. I know the game the other day got canceled or postponed with Boston, so maybe they have extra time to prepare and they just come out in Boston and just light it up. But they surely have been lacking these past couple games. So yeah, hopefully they can pick it up.
I want to question you about Terence Ross, as we were talking about him being a lock for 6th man of the year. He had 4 or 5 20-plus point games to open out the season. The last few games, Terence Ross has been held anywhere between 4 and 12 points. What do you think is going on with Terence Ross? He's been getting less touches, putting up less shots, hitting at a much less percentage.
Yeah, so the optimistic side of me just wants to say it's just a bad shooting stretch, and that's probably all it is. But it is a little concerning to see repeat poor performances from the Human Torch, because we need a lot more from him, especially now with the injuries that we have. We need a lot from Terence Ross. So hopefully he can get back in the swing of things. And you know him, he pulls it as soon as he touches it. So if he can knock down a few shots and get that rhythm back, then he'll be fine. But yeah, definitely concerning to see repeat poor performances from him. So hopefully he can get it together.
Yeah, the 22-point Bucks loss was tough. Only lost by 14 to a great shooting Mavericks team. But then the 42-point loss to the Rockets, that was really when it hit. Markel's loss. He's no longer on this team. And I just think these last 3 games, although we played 3 great teams, it has really showed that Terence Ross has been struggling. Evan Fournier's loss is actually huge for this team from a fan base that definitely does not like Evan Fournier and wants him shipped, which we'll talk about in just a minute. But Aaron Gordon, Cole Anthony, Michael Carter-Williams, James Ennis, Gary Clark, just names from big to small that have just been underperforming, in my opinion. It's really sad to watch, and it's not all about skill. It's a lot about effort, hustle, energy. And all those players I just named, I think that they're coming up short. I really hope Cole Anthony is going to be something good. Got to give him time. But averaging 9, 3, and what is he averaging? 9, 3, and 5. I'd like to see a little bit more from a top 15 pick in the draft. But we will see what is to come for this Magic team. Hopefully they've been practicing a lot with these games being delayed and postponed.
Yeah, so hopefully now that Cole Anthony's in that starting role, he can, get those minutes up and get a better rhythm, and hopefully those numbers can improve. I think they will as well. I think it's just going to take time. Think about how quick the season started. for him after being drafted compared to a normal season. So hopefully we'll see that. Aaron Gordon's another name that he hasn't been jumping off the stat sheet, but he's been quietly doing pretty good. I know against Milwaukee he was like 28-5 or something like that. I can pull it up. Yeah, 21 points, 5 rebounds, 8 assists, and he shot 3 for 4 from threes. A lot of very, very funny memes about Aaron Gordon shooting percentages with the afro and with cornrows. Much better shooter with the cornrows. So maybe there's a weight or balance thing that has to do with that. But yeah, so we just need the whole team to come together. I mean, it's interesting because in the beginning of the year, it was Vooch, Terence Ross, and Markelle that were all kind of carrying. And except for the first game. First game, Evan Fournier played really well, but it hasn't really been like that full team effort. And now, because of all the injuries, it needs to be that full team effort. I feel like a lot of Magic fans the last couple games, I mean, it's undeniable. Vooch has been playing out of his mind, but we're still losing these games by many points. So we can't ask Vooch to do everything for us. Vooch can't score 30, get 15 boards, and 8 assists every night. That's just not going to happen. And even if it does happen, if he's the only one that performs even close to that level, then we're just not going to win the game. So we need the whole team to pull together and show more effort, and I hope that's what happens these next couple games.
We were talking right before we came on the air to record this podcast about how our energy and our effort has been a little bit down since the Markelle injury and just the losses lately. So we have to take some responsibility on that part. But a couple positives I want to point out is Nikola Vucevic is averaging 22, 11, and 4, which is all-star numbers, easily a top 5 center in the league, let alone probably a top 2 or 3 in the East. So very, very grateful to have him. A name we don't hear a lot, but definitely deserves some attention. Khem Birch looks absolutely amazing. Huge transformation for him over the last year to 2 years. And Mo Bamba, in his couple minutes, he has looked not bad in my opinion. What other positives do you have to take since our last podcast?
Yeah, that's a good one. I want to touch on that last one you mentioned. It's going to be a battle between Khem Birch and Mo Bamba. I'm very excited to see Mo Bamba finally get minutes. I mean, he only got like 11 last game, but he had, I think, 8 points. So pretty good efficiency there. If he can get comfortable, like we've talked about in previous podcasts, a comfortable Mo Bamba is a good Mo Bamba. The more he sits on the bench, the more he comes in just for garbage minutes. He just looks uncomfortable and doesn't look like he knows what he's doing out there. But the more time he gets to run with the floor and run with the backup unit and even the starting unit, he can play really well. So hopefully he gets more minutes. Khem Birch is playing awesome, and I don't want to take away from his performance, but we need to see Mo Bamba this year. It's such an important part of the season is to figure out if Mo Bamba's the guy, if he's the future. And we're never going to know that if he's only playing, 5 to 10 minutes a night, especially with the injuries every year. And this year in particular with Isaac and Fultz done for the year, we need to see what we have in Mo Bamba to see if when we run it back next year, when Fultz and Isaac get back, if Bamba's the future or we need to get rid of him.
Transitioning into the second half of this podcast tonight, we're going to be talking about the future going forward, injuries-wise, team breakdown-wise, what we expect at this current state. But one thing I do want to point out is the 407 podcast Twitter. I posted I have a feeling tonight might be the worst Magic game of the year going into the Houston game. I was spot on for that. And I had a poll run in which we had 39 votes on. Very nice to see you guys going ahead and interacting with us on whether you guys would like to see the Orlando Magic tank or compete. With 48% of the vote, the minority want this team to go ahead and tank. That's not what me and Mills are thinking, and I'll go ahead and let Mills start off with his thoughts on what this Magic team should do to finish out this shortened season.
So continuing that fan engagement, it's something that we want you guys to do a lot. So comment below if you didn't answer the Twitter poll or you'd like to share. We read all the comments. Justin and I have gone back and forth. I mean, obviously, it's still really early in the season, and it's something that I want to stress a lot that we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast, that they're still the Orlando Magic, and I still see them as a potential playoff team and being kind of in the same spot as last year, having maybe a few less wins than losses, but still being kind of in the running for some of the bottom seeds in the playoffs. So I don't want to be all doom and gloom, but I mean, clearly this is a different team than the beginning of the year, and that was going to happen. No one thought the Magic were going to, you know, win a ridiculous amount of games, not lose a game till, game 15. No one thought that. But just to see the hustle and heart kind of change, and the injuries that have happened, it just feels a lot like the Magic from, maybe a year or two ago, and not a new and improved Magic. But that could all be changed. That could all be changed when these next couple of games, if they get it together, stay positive, they stay above 500. That'll help so much for these games that matter more late in the season. So yeah, we got to see it. We got to see these new additions: Dwayne Bacon, Cole Anthony, Chuma whenever he gets back. We got to see them perform. So yeah, Justin, any additional thoughts?
I made this tweet about a week ago saying, Orlando Magic fans, do not forget this. The 2021-2022 roster with no moves other than not re-signing Evan Fournier has a starting lineup of Markelle Fultz, Cole Anthony, Jonathan Isaac, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Vucevic. That is phenomenal in my opinion. That's young, well-rounded on offense and defense, maybe a little bit bleak in the shooting department, but with a bench going Dwayne Bacon, Terence Ross, Chuma Okeke, Kem Birch, and Mo Bamba, that's a great 10 players right there. Not to mention a 2021 first-round lottery draft pick if we continue on this progression. Mills, what are your thoughts about that roster?
Yeah, so that's something we talked about, I think, 3 episodes ago, is it's really how the season unfolds. Like the beginning of the year, you're winning a bunch of games. Let's say it continued out, and let's say it still does continue, and you're winning a bunch of games. Do they want to retain everybody, try to, make the playoffs and make some noise, which is unlikely, but more power to them. And then next year, run it back with additional pieces. Or do they want to treat this as a gap year, especially now that Fultz is gone? Just not tank, but sell Evan Fournier or sell maybe Aaron Gordon, or probably not Vooch, but at the very worst case scenario, sell Vooch, get a ton of draft capital, and then next year run it back with Fultz, Isaac, and new pieces. And that's definitely a tough decision to make, because I mean you don't really know what the future has in store. You don't know how these rookies are going to turn out. They could blow up and play really well, and we could be a very good playoff team. But as of right now, I'm leaning more toward trade for picks and not so much tank, but kind of readjust and treat this as a gap year. That doesn't mean sell everybody. I mean, I want to keep Ross. I want to keep Vucevic. Fournier's probably going to go, so there's nothing I can say about him. But I definitely want to keep Gordon. So it's really going to be up to them. And they're 6-5 right now. We can't. I mean, we're not winless. We're not undefeated. So there's no clear picture of it right now. We just need to see a few more games. But yeah, definitely those are the two main options and things that the general manager is going to have to weigh.
I think the general manager is going to have a lot to weigh, especially with a popular opinion in the Magic Twitterverse. The liability that is going to be on this coaching and training staff for all these similar injuries with the knees and lower body. But yeah, one of the huge things is what is the direction of this team going to be? And I'm leaning more with you, Mills, that tanking or selling would be such a smart move for this team. I think Nikola Vucevic is a must-stay. He needs to retire as a Magic. He's playing like an all-star. He's going to be an all-star this year, bearing no injuries. Prayers, knocking on wood as I speak. But I would love to see Aaron Gordon stick around, but Evan Fournier has to go. I think personally it's time to come back from those back spasms. I don't know how serious it could be, but the way he was playing and the draft capital that you could get for a player like that on a team that could be making a playoff run, I think it's a no-brainer to sell him, possibly Aaron Gordon, possibly Terence Ross. That nice 10-man roster I told you guys just a few moments ago, that was without counting Al-Farouq Aminu, Gary Clark, Michael Carter-Williams. Those 3 pieces could be moved, as well as Kem Birch, Dwayne Bacon, Mo Bamba. I think any of those could be moved for draft capital, young talent, anything that'll help this Magic team feel more well-rounded, future-driven. I'm not saying this season's a loss. I think the 10-team playoff, we're 100% going to be in that, whether it's the 9 or 10 seed now due to these injuries. But having a first-round lottery pick with just that starting five, maybe three nice bench pieces, this Orlando Magic team has a very, very bright future. With that being said, I just want to go ahead and say we are very happy that the Magic have won all these games so far this year. We are now winless, like Mills said. Very, very thankful for this 4-game winning streak. But in my opinion, it's time to move on from some of these pieces like James Ennis. Move on from Evan Fournier while you can get more for him than you would be getting in the offseason, which would be nothing. Mills, your final thoughts on losing Markelle Fultz and what it means for this team?
It's huge. It is huge. I think it's probably less so the performance and more so just the fact that he was such an integral part of the team. I mean, you saw how they looked the game after the Cleveland game. It was rough. He can run the offense just so well, and I think he's underrated for that aspect of his game, and maybe even taken for granted a little bit. But I mean, we'll see what happens. Something that you mentioned that I want to touch on. Vooch peaked so late into his career at that like 29, 30-year-old range that I get why a lot of fans don't want to waste this kind of like prime Vooch because he can only have so many years left. That I understand why fans don't want to tank and just reset everything because it's taken the Magic so long to climb kind of like playoff caliber team. So I understand that, but it's a question of, do you want to be mediocre for, the next 10 to 15 years, or do you want to try and be kind of have an aggressive takeover and kind of push the reset button and try out all these young players that you've drafted? Because I think that Jeff has drafted really well. I think that some really good star players are on this team that could be budding stars in the next couple of years. And we just need to surround them with the right talent and just figure out these rotations to make them work together well. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on it.
I couldn't agree more. There's nothing too much more I want to add to that. I will ask you, over the last 2 seasons, our record was 33-40 and 42-40. Do you think that we finish in between those, which would be a win percentage between .450 and .510? Where do you think we finish just in terms of over-under?
That's a tough question. I'm leaning toward under. But I just think there's so much basketball left that I don't know. But as of right now, the way they're playing right now, and depending on how much longer this kind of dry streak runs, I would go with under.
I agree with you. I do think we go under. I do think if Bradley Beal continues to play the way he does, as well as James Harden being added to the Brooklyn Nets, I think that the East has gotten stronger. The Nets are a dominant force that are Laker level in the East now that are going to absolutely annihilate us, even without Spencer Dinwiddie. So I think the East has gotten much better. We had gotten better as a team, and I think if healthy, it would have been a great run, very competitive Orlando Magic young basketball team. But I'm going to go ahead and say under with these injuries, with us getting the 9th or 10th seed, making it to that playing game. One thing we're going to talk about in an upcoming episode is going to be the NBA mock draft and potential places the Magic could finish, as well as players we can target. There's a bunch of great names, all the way from number 1 to number 30 in the first round of the 2021 NBA draft. So there's a bunch of different mock drafts we can talk about, as well as pieces that we'd love to see the Orlando Magic fill out heading into the 2021-2022 healthy season. Other than that, Mills, is there anything you want to ask me or cover before we wrap up this 6th episode?
No, I think I'm all good.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to the 407 podcast. Once again, I've been taking down your guys' names, all of your comments, everything you guys have been wanting to say. We love the guest interaction. We got a list of people that are going to be coming on to our next panel, our best talk around about all things Magic basketball. And as always, thank you guys so much for listening, sharing. We're going to hope that this video is one of our most successful ones. So please get out there, like, share, subscribe as we go ahead and try to bring this over to Spotify and Apple Podcasts in the year to come. So thank you for me. Go ahead, Mills, take us out.
Thank you guys so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And we'll come back at you with some more Magic basketball content. Thank you.